Gotham Season 3 finale, Destiny Calling, and Heavy Dirty Soul. So this season finale, I would have to say, did a really great job. They ended out on a pretty high bang. Like, they did some really great stuff. They did, especially like the last 15 minutes, I thought was absolutely phenomenal. There was like reference after reference. I think most people knew a lot of the references because they're super obvious. It's a Batman show. Some characters are meant to be other characters in the future. It's obvious. But some of the references were super freaking sweet. So I saved those, especially because it was the end of the episode anyway. I'll save that for the end of the review. But I started from the beginning. They did some really cool stuff. The one thing that I figured, Tetch did end up coming back. Of course, he is, he's the one who starts the virus. It's his family. So of course he has to come back, whether it's important, relevant, or not. He has to be there. But of course it's relevant because it's his blood that makes the virus. Technically it was his sister, but same blood. And I like that. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. And that basically sets off the rest of the finale because we have like this crazy three-way battle going on where we have, of course, the police, where they need him for the virus. We have Barbara and Nigma who are trying to, who basically kidnap him. And they want to take over in order to get everything they want, including Penguin. And then you, of course, have Fish, who wants to basically just get the virus and cure the city in general, just to take over. So she wasn't really involved with the Tetch part, but that was a part of the three-way battle that they were having, which led to some smaller battles, which I knew was going to happen because the other thing was Barbara keeps effing pushing it, and she's going to piss Tabitha off. So that's exactly what happened. But once again, I'll save that for the end. But they did a great job with this first episode. Fish Mooney did end up dying. That was something I mentioned before. It was like, it wasn't really a prediction. It was just like, maybe she will, maybe she won't, because that seems to be her thing where she pops in and out. Like, she'll either come in, die, and then she'll come back later, or she'll pop in and then just take off. So it's like, well, this is the finale. I don't know, maybe she will end up dying. And of course, that's what ends up happening. And it's I'm kind of like half and half with her death, because in one regard, it was kind of cool because of what they were doing leading up to it between her and Penguin, which really surprised me. And in another regard, I hated it because I felt it was so cheap for her character. After dying and then dying, she officially dies by just being stabbed in the stomach by, jacked up Jim. And like, that was it. The Tetch virus Jim stabs her, and that's her official death. She just got stabbed, and that was it. And of course, she drops the virus, or most of the vials of the virus. But it was just like, man, I felt like such a cheap way for her character to die. But what I really loved was everything they did between her and Penguin really caught me off guard. Because I thought, from the last episode, like, of course she saved his life, but I thought she was coming in and it was going to be like, hey, you're going to follow me around and I'm basically going to taunt you and torture you as I get closer to completely running this city. And, excuse me, that was not at all what happened. They were actually a team. He was happy to actually be working with her. Part of it probably came from like, I'm on cloud 9 once I'm about to get shot up and you just randomly come in and save my life. You're like way up here. You're happy. But he seemed genuinely happy the whole time. She's like, we're going to rule the city together and they're partners and stuff. Maybe she would have officially been in charge, but still, they were actually going to have something together, and he seemed totally fine with it. And when she died, he was actually upset. And I was like, wow, this was something that I didn't expect. So it made me enjoy that scene even more. Like, she was that final push, where it's like, after everything they'd been through, he's still Penguin. And I believe they referenced that before. I think it was, I can't remember if it was the very last time. I think it was the time before last when they were together, but I really can't remember. There's some, she's died and disappeared so many times. I can't remember when they last met, but I think it was, because they showed in the recap the part where she touched him and he like passed out in front of the truck. I do believe that was the last time they met before she saved him at the end of the last episode, but it was just one of those things. It was like, that's still her Penguin. That's just how it always was. And that's how ultimately their relationship ended. It was still on good terms where they were together about to take over the whole city. And when she died, she pushes him like, you take over this city, which leads to some stuff towards the end. But it was really good. I was surprised. It was like, even though I hated that it was just a knife, it wasn't like, even though they were there, the League of Assassins and everything, it was Jim Gordon. He turned around in his rage and stabbed her in the stomach, which I don't know why the F she went up on him like that, but hey, that was her choice and it got her killed. But it was still a good way to do it. And I was like, as much as I hate the reasoning for her death, like the actual action in which she was about to die, or that set off her death, it was still a great moment where it ends and they're on great terms. And she's like, we can't do it together, but you make this city yours. And then she dies, and I was like, that's actually kind of awesome. So ultimately, I do love the way that they did it, you know, with that relationship building up to her death, where they were ultimately, you know, Penguin and Fish were on good terms. So I really appreciated that. It just, you know, I kind of wish it was something a bit more supernatural. Maybe Jim, maybe not like just a random turn and he stabbed her, maybe just something where he's throwing everybody and he goes towards her like she has the virus and he can't control himself and that's why he killed her and she dropped it. But it was just like he stabbing here, stabbing there, and he just turns poof, and just hits her right in the stomach. I was like, oh, that sucks. But still, definitely a good moment for Penguin. And he has some great stuff, man. The way they did him at the end was phenomenal. But first part, still really well done. You know, the loss of Fish, kind of that build up leading to some more tension as things went on into the second part of the finale. But Tabitha and Butch not exactly being on the greatest terms with Barbara, where she's super pissed off. And, you know, Tabitha, after everything kind of goes bad when Nigma ends up stealing Tetch, it's like she gets super pissed off with him. It's like, I told you to just watch one guy tied up to a chair. So, of course, that's just another little tick. And so when they get to it, you have Nigma, and you have the cops, you know, you got Tetch, and then Penguin, and that's supposed to be the trade. And then, of course, you have Barbara, Butch, and Tabitha show up. And so Tabitha is trying to kill Ed after everything goes crazy. And Barbara's like, no, don't worry about him. We need Tetch so that we can get all this money. So it was interesting. They were just building up piece by piece, going all the way to the end. Of course, Lee was continuously building up as like being infected and wanting Jim to give over to his true self so that they could officially be together in their like truest, craziest form. And that was cool, watching him go through this craziness. We get to see Freeze come back, we get Firefly back. Jim punches through an ice wall, which was pretty intense. I was like, okay, you know, we'll see how this plays out. He's losing it, you know, both parts, like by the end he's throwing, which I love that they referenced that at the end where it was funny, but he's throwing Bullock into the trains and stuff because he's losing control. But that was great. I like the way they did that, and of course that's what leads to him taking out the League of Assassins and then ultimately killing Fish with that random stab. So it led to some interesting moments. I don't know if him having super strength should have helped him with the League of Assassins because they're the League of Assassins, but you know, it is what it is. And another big thing, of course, was the virus actually going crazy throughout the city. That was interesting. Like the way they started the first episode was nuts. The lady going to the bank and she just, when she pulled out the gun and just started shooting, at first, because she had a blood print on the thing, when they first showed it and the bullet went through, I thought that was the woman's brains like splattering onto the glass. I was like, holy crap. And I was like, oh, that's the handprint, because that got me for a second. I thought that's what that was when she started shooting. I thought she hit that woman in the head. I was like, holy crap. Like I knew they were getting intense recently. I mentioned before when they like cut the dude's head off and they showed like for like half a second, they show the head split from the neck. And I was like, holy crap, they're getting like super intense, like brains just splattering on windows. And I was like, oh, that's just a handprint. But it still shocked me because she was mad and she put in blood. I'm like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. And she was just like, boom, and just start pulling, you know, pulling the trigger. I was like, oh, that shocked me. So I love the way that it started. And then we just see the city in chaos, people running around. I love the fact that they had the two Girl Scouts like, buy our cookies. And they're like chasing the dude. I thought that was really funny. But it was really cool seeing the city just in absolute chaos. They had the train that was just going on fire. So a lot of cool visuals and stuff in the beginning with the whole city just losing it. And you know, you got the GCPD just getting torn to shreds. Everybody's crazy and got super strength. Like a woman like ripped the bars open from the inside and she like jumps out. People tossing cops left and right. Alvarez, the cop, he actually ended up being infected, so he started shooting people up. He had like 1,000,000 bullets as well, because I'm like, where the F is he getting all these bullets from? Because we finally have you know, Alfred, like his stuff going on where he's with Bruce. He's trying to talk to him and everything, and the gunshots started going off, so he's like, well, I gotta see what's happening. Alvarez is just shooting people left and right, and he almost ends up getting Alfred, of course, but Lucius comes in, so it's cool that we actually got to see Lucius as well. So they end up teaming up because Bruce ends up taking off, and that's when things got really crazy, because that's where we get to actually like the end of the first season, or the first half of the finale. And I had to watch it in 2 parts. I actually watched it, I watched the first episode Monday night because I got off work like super late because of my stupid car. So we get like the whole first segment is Bruce and Alfred is like, okay, we got to figure this out. Bruce is still under this mind control. It's like, go to the Yu-Yan building, find the head of the dragon, who of course is Ra's al Ghul, and I referenced that. Hopefully it wasn't a huge spoiler for anyone who may or may not have even cared. But of course the League of Assassins. And so when we get to the end, it was funny because I mentioned before, like, I kind of hate that they're leading to the League of Assassins with everything that's going on with the Arrowverse and stuff. Like, that's been, since season 2, League of Assassins has been a big deal. This was like, okay, we're going to do that, but we're just going to fast track it. And it's like, all right, check this out. I'm Ra's al Ghul, head, I'm the Dragon's head. Lazarus Pit, kill him, heal him, I'm out of here, Force Ghost. Like, he Force Ghosted out of his clothes and disappeared. And I was like, I don't understand that. But it was super awesome. I was like, they just like shotgun the information. Like, that's me, Lazarus Pit, he's dead, you can use the water, he's alive, I'm out of here. And then that was it. So, League of Assassins next season. But I love the way that they did it with Bruce actually stabbing Alfred. That was great. Because honestly, it surprised me. I thought it was going to be, because he was, constantly, hesitating. Every time it was Alfred, it was like, I can't do it. The first time it wasn't even Alfred, it was just like, he didn't want to kill people. Second time it was Alfred, so he was distracted. And the third time, you can see he was hesitating. I'm like, okay, he's going to hesitate. He's going to turn around and try to swing on Ra's. And then it's like, how do we beat, the League of Assassins, which they wouldn't have. But he doesn't break the mind control until after he stabs Alfred. So I was honestly, still a bit surprised that they actually went through with it, because he runs straight through him with that blade. And I was like, holy crap, he actually did it. And I freaked out for a second, and then I was like, oh yeah, Lazarus Pit. So, like, that was how I ended. I actually watched the first episode, like, by itself, and then, I had to go to sleep. It was like 4 in the morning. But it was a great way to end it. And I was like, okay, I was freaking out, but I was like, oh yeah, Lazarus Pit, Lazarus Pit. I just really thought he'd break it right before, and then somehow they, magically escape him. But that was not the case. He stabs him through, and then, of course, Bruce loses it, and is like, holy crap, I have to find some way to save him, which I can. He was just freaking out and crying, which makes a lot of sense. And then he's trying to yell and argue with, the demon's head, and that doesn't work. But like I said, they talk about destiny and stuff, which I was like, okay, that makes sense. You have this person who lives for centuries, and it's the Lazarus Pit. There's a lot of mystical stuff going on with that, so I thought it was interesting. They talk about destiny and how Bruce being able to actually break the mind control, even if it was after, it still proves that he's meant to take his place, and he's meant to be this, kind of like this beacon in the darkness and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, that's, obviously super Batman stuff. But I liked it. I thought it was cool. And then, like I said, he tells him about, use the waters. He doesn't say Lazarus Pit, but that's what it's called for anyone who's, may not know that. And he pours it on the wound, and of course that ends up healing Alfred. It brings him back to life. Like I said, he does like the Force Ghost thing, and he disappears out of his cloak. And so, of course, Bruce ends up just taking Alfred to the hospital. You actually see Selena, like, I think this was her first appearance, and then she only had one other. I know this was the first time she showed up, but I think she only showed up at the very end as well. So I was kind of surprised, like, those were the only moments we got to see of Selena, but there was a lot going on, and she's kind of just like, she's moving into a very interesting position with Tabitha, so I'm excited for that. But as far as, basically the whole series up until that very end scene where she's like, I'm ready to kind of move up, she's kind of just been on her own. So it makes sense that she wouldn't really be super involved in all the craziness going on, because she's not really tied to anyone, especially after she distanced herself since her mother from Bruce and Alfred. So I was like, okay, it makes sense, but it was still kind of weird that she was like the one main character that hardly showed up. She had like those 2 little moments, and then that was it. It was just like, that feels so weird. As one of the main characters that she only had 2 scenes in the finale. But she shows up, her and Bruce end up having a small little argument, and then eventually Alfred does end up waking up. He tells him, like, you need to find your true north, which is what will ultimately guide you in the direction that you need to go. And they have a cool, sappy little moment where he's like, my true north is you. It was actually a really good moment. Just like when he was trying to convince him when Bruce was still under mind control, like, when you came home, and this, like, they had that for several different moments. Like when he was about to die, they did that, and when he was in the when he was trying to help Bruce initially when they were at the GCPD. So they had a couple of those moments, and I thought they were all really well done. They just got better as time went on, because it was like the first one was him trying to help him out of mind control, and then the end he was really trying to help, because it's like, you're gonna kill me, but I know at some point this is gonna have some crazy effect on you, so you gotta break it now. And then of course at the end, after everything's fine, he's still like, you just have to find your true north to make you the person you're meant to become. So they had some really good moments between the two of them that I really enjoyed. Of course, there's so much going on in this. I really like break it down. Like, there are so many different moments. It was like you have all these characters together, especially the villains. The villains were the thing where it was like, it started like this, and then it was like, here's 5 different stories, 4 or 5 things going on at one time. Fish Mooney dies, of course. Going into the actual finale, we have Penguin actually being captured by Ed. We have Tabitha and Butch officially deciding to go against Barbara. And we, of course, have Lee, who's technically still one of the good guys. She's just infected as a current villain. But, man, it got really nuts. We have the League of Assassins attacking them, and that, of course, leads to Fish dying. They don't really show up outside of that first part, which I thought was interesting. But, you know, that's them doing their thing, their first real appearance. One of the dudes, the part where they had Alfred brought in, I swear the person over his left shoulder, who's on the right side of the screen, looked exactly like the actor that played Scorpion in the old Mortal Kombat movie. Don't know why that was in my head, but I was like, they have the same eyebrows, and the mask was actually yellow too, so that helped. But I was like, that looks exactly like the actor that played Scorpion. Probably not. But going into the second part, all our villains just like separated, and it was just mass chaos after that. We have Tetch being murdered, so that was how they officially got the virus. Tetch is dead now, so he's gone because of Jim. We have, like I said, Penguin being captured, or I guess at first Penguin was captured, and then technically Ed was the one who was captured, and then it reversed again. So they have a great moment where they're in the cop car, and I loved every moment of that. Like, it was just great from top to bottom. Like, they were going back and forth, and it's like, how in the world is this about to play out? And then we have the moment where Ed actually escapes, and then Penguin gets captured, so it's kind of reversed again. And it was so freaking good the way that that played out, where they get to the end moment, and we have all the stuff they were saying in the car about Ed talking about, like, you're predictable because of your emotions with fear and anger, and then get to the end, and everything that happened, Penguin knew what was, he knew what was up, and I just loved that whole moment. And he's like, you know, you have any last words? He's like, you know, I'll wait, and you know, stuff like that. I'm like, what's about to happen here? Like, does he know that, like, what is going on with him dying? Because I assumed, I'm like, Ed's gonna just shoot him in the head this time. Like, he's not gonna make that mistake twice. And then it turns out he took the bullets out because he knew exactly what was gonna happen. The pin that was in the back of the car, he planted there. It was his tie pin. And it was freaking genius, and everything they did was perfect. And it was like, you know, I called them because I knew you'd bring me here because you're more predictable than I am. And I thought that was just a great freaking moment. And he freezes them. Like, the Riddler is frozen in a block of ice because that's where he's going to be as the centerpiece for Penguin's Iceberg Lounge. So that was super freaking awesome because I was like, I assumed he was going to kill him, but he froze him in place, and I was like, that is perfect. He's out, but he's not dead. It's such a perfect freaking way to do that, because I'm like, they can't kill him off, because these are like my two favorite characters. That would suck if either of them died, honestly. I love both those characters. But he freezes them, and ultimately Penguin's on top. And then, you know, like I said, they referenced the Iceberg Lounge, which is super awesome, because as soon as he said, you know, like as soon as they showed it, I knew it was an iceberg. I was like, oh man, he's making the Iceberg Lounge, which is like a huge thing for Penguin. That's literally, like, he mentions the business. Every time Batman exists, there is the Iceberg Lounge. The Iceberg Lounge is a huge part of Penguin's character. Like, when he's officially on top, the Iceberg Lounge is where he's at all the time. So when they officially referenced it, like they showed that image, I was like, he's making the Iceberg Lounge. That was super freaking amazing, so I was happy about that. Then they show Ed frozen in place inside this cube, which I just thought was awesome. So we'll get to see him as like this crazy frozen centerpiece in the Iceberg Lounge. Don't know the legalities of that, but we'll see how that ends up playing out in the next season. But ultimately, he ends up coming out on top. And then we have our other set of villains, our little trio, with our they were like former best friends, and it's Tabitha, Butch, and Barbara. And the crazy thing about it is, if it weren't for Tabitha, Barbara would have been killed a super long time ago. Because Butch says that, I think he said it in like the first part, and I was like, that's so freaking true. There are so many different elements, whereas like, they're the reason that she's where she is now, because they took her in when she was still like in super crazy mode. Because I still remember that episode when she like barged in on them, and Tabitha was like, just let her watch TV, and she was just clicking through channels because she was like out of her mind. That was like the first thing I thought of when Butch said that, and I was like, that's so true, because they like took her in after all the crazy villains got captured or killed. She was the only one who kind of got let free, and she was still crazy, but she escaped. And I was like, they took her in and they helped her kind of recuperate, and she treats him like crap now because of that one little moment. And then we get an even crazier moment because Butch was going to take care of it, and Barbara found him, and I'm like, they're not about to kill Butch, right? Because I actually like Butch. I know he doesn't get like a ton of time. I like Butch though. He had, you know, bigger roles last time. I assume he's going to have some bigger roles in the future, but that moment when she shot him in the head, I was like, holy crap, they just killed off Butch, and that was insane to me. Then we get to the safe house, and Tabitha opens up that little case with the hand, and it's like, I just need to know if you killed him. That's the only way we can move forward. And of course they end up arguing, and I thought Tabitha was dead. I was like, wow. She knocked the gun out of her hand at first. She's sending him through the walls. They're, trading blows back and forth. Barbara, tries to kiss Tabitha to distract her. Then she headbutts her. And it was just back and forth. I was like, how in the world is this about to end? She pulls the gun on her. And I didn't know what Tabitha was doing, because I'm like, she's not even whipping towards her. She's whipped, like, her arm's at an angle. I'm like, I'm super confused. She's like, I told you not to bring a whip to a gunfight. And she pulled the freaking light over, and she actually killed Barbara. And I was like, wow. That is effing crazy. I did not see that coming. Especially with Barbara being, a character from the beginning of the series, I thought for sure she was going to be the one to survive that, just because she was there from the beginning and where she's at. But Tabitha ends up surviving. She's going to be kind of the mentor to Selena now, because she comes in and she gives her the whip and stuff, and of course she's a natural at it. So they have that moment. Then we get to Butch in the hospital. I was like, holy crap, he lived. And then they do like the super epic reference of saying his name is Cyrus Gold. And for anyone who doesn't know who he is, you probably already looked it up, because that's what I do every time I don't remember a character's name, which I certainly didn't. I looked it up. Cyrus Gold is Solomon Grundy, who, for anyone who doesn't know this character, is immortal. He dies, he comes back. I don't know if you can technically count that as immortal, but he constantly comes back. He's there. It makes me wonder if he knew that he was immortal ahead of time. So there are a lot of questions there, because like the thing with his character is that when he gets resurrected, depending on who's writing for the character, he can change mentally and physically. So he will come back. Sometimes he'll be smarter than other times. Sometimes he'll be stronger than other times. And it just makes me wonder, how far are they going to go with that, as far as him having lived for a super long time? Just a million different things. Like, with him having changed his name, was it because he didn't need those legal records? Like, hey, I've been alive since, 1702 or something crazy. So it just makes me wonder how far they're really going to go with it. He's the perfect dude, because he is like the big stocky guy, so it makes sense too. But it just made me wonder. I was like, how far are we going to go as far as like nerdy and superpowers and this and that, smarter, dumber, a million different things. Physically, is he going to eventually turn gray? I highly doubt it. But that was a great reference. A million great things at the end, and just a great way to end it out. Jim ultimately ends up saving Lee. She takes off on him. I was like, oh, that kind of sucks, but he gets left behind. That seems to just be the way that it is for Jim. But ultimately, things are solved. People are frozen. People are dead. People have teamed up, and I cannot wait, because this is a great freaking finale. So my camera's about to cut off because I've been talking this whole way through, but it was a really good finale. I really loved it. Can't wait for what we get for the next season. Of course, would love to know what you guys thought about this finale, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, least favorite parts. What do you guys think about all the deaths that happened in this episode? We lost quite a few characters. Well, technically, we only lost 2. We have a whole new version of Butch, so who knows, but I want to know your theories for where we're heading in the next season, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.